My third quarterback on my list, which is probably going to be debated by a lot of people, or people are going to call me dumb or stupid for having him here, but it's Mac Jones. Like, Mac Jones is a very great quarterback prospect, and I wouldn't be surprised if he turns out to be more successful than Trevor Lawrence. And I know that sounds like a hot take, but Mac Jones he has it all. Like, there are a few things that he doesn't have. One of them is athleticism, but outside of that, when we're talking strictly the quarterback position, Mac Jones has a lot of traits that translate well and that I was simply wowed by. For one, when talking about his pros, he has insane pocket presence. I mean, he feels defenders and where they're coming from. He slides in the pocket. He moves away from defenders. He steps up. And the thing about it is that when you're athletically gifted like a Justin Fields or Trey Lance or even Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, I guess you can put in that category, you don't have to have the best pocket presence. Let me compare it more to Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't have to have the best pocket presence because his athleticism makes up for a lot of those flaws. Because Mac Jones is not like that, because he can't escape defenders, if even on a good day he can't do it. He has to really develop a feel for the game and a feel for the pocket. And Mac Jones has that feel. He had to develop a feel for where defenders are coming from. He had to develop where to step up if you want to get this angle on a throw. Like, the mechanics of playing the quarterback position, Mac Jones has them down pack. And his pocket presence is a gigantic pro to me. I think he has the best pocket presence in this draft. His ball placement is phenomenal. I mean, even people love to make the argument that his receivers were wide open. Listen, he had more tight window throws than Justin Fields and Trey Lance. So his receivers weren't as open as a lot of people like to make it sound like. They weren't wide open most of the times. Jalen Waddle was hurt, and you had Mechie and Devontae Smith. And there were times when they ran some screens for Devontae Smith, but most of the time, Mac Jones was dropping back and throwing 20-plus yards, 10 to 15 yards. Like, he was throwing the ball a lot. And throws weren't wide open. There were a lot of throws that he really had to fit into tight windows, and he did just that. His accuracy is a big plus. He set the BCS record, the college football record, for the best completion percentage, I believe, at 77%. I mean, his accuracy is really off the charts. He's light on his feet. So even though he's not agile and can't escape the pocket with his legs as often as these other quarterbacks, he's very light on his feet, and he's always active in the pocket. He has a lot of toughness. And also, the thing that I like about Jones the most is that he's kind of a perfectionist. Mac Jones doesn't like to be off on the throw by more than a yard or like even an inch. Like, even if it's a great throw, but he feels like he could have got it better, sometimes the camera would shift to Mac Jones' reaction, and he'd just be hitting his helmet in just anger that he couldn't get a throw where he wanted it to do. I wouldn't say anger, but more like, damn, man, I could have did that better. And because of that, I think that's something that is huge. His competitiveness, his toughness, his ability to want to perfect the craft in the game, I think that speaks volumes. And also, he throws it away when nothing is there. And he also can throw off platform, even though he is not that athletic. There are times when a defender is coming, and he has to throw off that back foot, and he throws dimes, and he throws really great throws. So because of that, he has that ability. He also has a very tight spiral and a very good arm. He doesn't have a great arm, but he has a good arm. Like, I wouldn't even say that Trevor Lawrence has a way stronger arm than Mac Jones. I think their arm strength is pretty similar. Maybe Trevor Lawrence edges him out by like a little bit, but I think Mac Jones' arm is really underrated. Then when we talk about cons, athleticism is one of them. Like, he is a slow quarterback. He is like a Matt Ryan, a Kirk Cousins. He's not going to escape the pocket anytime soon. You're not going to be able to make design runs for him. He takes too many chances at times because he trusts his arm too much. Because he has great zip on the ball and velocity, he does tend to trust his arm way too much. And because of that, sometimes he could throw into tight coverage, and in the NFL, those might be interceptions. And outside of that, probably experience, right? He started less than 20 games. So experience is also a concern, but unlike Trey Lance started 16 games, or 17 games, I believe, but he only had about 220 throws. Mac Jones had like 360. So because the experience is a problem, but he had a bunch of throws and he dropped back a ton in Alabama. And also another con, the talent he was surrounded by. Yes, he was surrounded with a boatload of talent, so you could hold that against him a little bit. But in terms of the offense was a pro-style offense. He had to go through a lot of progressions, and that's another pro of his, going through progressions. So because of that, it wasn't a gimmicky offense. And also, he mastered the playbook. Mac Jones knew the playbook so well that when Bill O'Brien got hired by Alabama, Mac Jones taught Bill O'Brien the playbook. Imagine that, a college quarterback teaching an NFL former head coach the playbook to the offense. I mean, I think that's pretty special. My pro comparison for Mac Jones is Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan. But if we're talking about former players, he reminds me a lot of Eli Manning, and I mean a lot. They both wear number 10. They both play kind of the same way. That whenever they throw the ball, they're kind of the motion of it. It looks the same. So he reminds me a lot of Eli Manning. But in terms of current players, I would say I lean more towards Matt Ryan, but Kirk Cousins is definitely there as well.